You're listening to the Savoir Faire audio experience.
Are you ready?
The Savoir Faire experience is your guide to everything that has to do with lifestyle. From dating, rides, style, and entertainment. All brought to you by the editor of Savoir Faire magazine, Robert White. Anything goes on this audio experience. So, let's go.
It's still the best.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Savoir Faire audio experience. Thank you guys so much for listening, following, sharing. We see you, and we definitely appreciate you. As usual, we want to bring you really cool and unique people that we interview and give you some behind the scenes about those conversations. And today's really no exception. This is not only a really great entrepreneur, but now an author, and I'm super excited to talk to Robert Dilenschneider. How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing very well, and thank you for the call, and all the best to you.
Oh, I appreciate that so much, and I'm so glad that we get to connect with another fellow Robert. It's one of the coolest names a man can have, I think. So it's kind of cool. So I want to learn a lot about you, Robert. I did a lot of research on you this morning and really wanted to learn a lot about who you were. But I want you to kind of guide the conversation a little bit. So I'm really curious about some of your backstory, and obviously you have a really strong entrepreneur journey that's really cool, and I want to dive into that. But I really kind of feel like entrepreneurs, they can be taught, but I really think they're just born. And so I'm really curious about how your upbringing, college life, business life kind of started before you started Dilenschneider Group.
Well, it started this way. I was in Columbus, Ohio, and my father ran the newspaper. And he came home one day at noon, which is very rare for him. As we're sitting at the table, he slid across the table a ticket. And I said, "Dad, what's this?" He said, "It's a ticket to New York City." He said, "You need to go there and start your career." And I said, "I don't know anybody in New York." And he said, "You'll get to know them. Go there." So I did it. I took the bus to New York, Trailways bus. And I started to meet people. And I eventually ended up at a company called Hill Knowlton. And at that time, there were 19 people in the company. I was starting at the rock bottom. Well, I was with the company for more than 20 years. I eventually ended up as CEO, and we had over 11,000 people in the company, and had grown to be the top company in our field in the world. I left the company because I really wanted to go out on my own, and I did that again, formed the Dilenschneider Group, about 30 people, with many, many others consulting with us, and we were very, very successful. After a while, however, it became clear that what we needed to do was downsize yet again. So I've downsized the Dilenschneider Group to about 11 people, plus maybe 40 consultants around the world. And that's what we're doing now.
Okay, cool. So I mean, you definitely want to see some changes, but I missed the small piece in the beginning where you said you just got on a bus from Ohio and went to New York, and that's how you started this kind of adventure?
It was pure luck. I got off the bus at Trailways Terminal. I said, "What happens now?" And I started to try to interview people, or with people. I finally found somebody on Broadway named David Merrick. And after about 10 minutes, Merrick said to me, "You don't believe on Broadway. Get out of town." And so I didn't leave town. I went to a firm called Ogilvy and Mather. And at that time, I knew David Ogilvy, and he arranged for an interview, and I got a job offer. I didn't take it right away because the guy making the offer said, "I want you to go over and see people at Hill Knowlton. You'll probably enjoy that firm more." I said to the person that interviewed me, "Look, I'd like your job." And he said, "No, don't worry. I'll be here tomorrow. Go for the interviews at Hill Knowlton," which I did. And I ended up again starting at ground zero, but I ended up running the company. That's how it happened.
Wow, that's really cool. It's interesting to me that a company, I mean, it sounds like progressive now, like a progressive commercial. Like, we'll give you options for everybody, and you can pick the best one. It's not the way it works this modern day, for sure. I mean, I think if people find really great employees, they don't tell them to go interview other places. They just take them, right? So that's pretty unique that's part of your story, that someone did that for you.
Well, it was a man named Sam Fry. And for many years, until he passed away, I took Fry to lunch on the day that I met him, and told him how much it meant to me that he had done what he did.
Yeah, I could see how that could mean a lot. That's really cool. Well, so Dilenschneider Group is now, you said, a little bit smaller now. You're kind of really hyper-focused on a handful of different topics. Can you tell me about the things that you guys really focus in on now and how you're helping companies?
We're offering advice to clients all over the world on a regular basis. And given what's taking place between China and the United States, in India, in Ukraine, with Russia itself, Western Europe, which is kind of on its backside now, and of course the United States, where we're with Donald Trump, and every day is a new day. I get up, get out of bed, and say to myself, what's Trump going to do today? And something happens. So we're offering advice on all of those things, and frequently following up on the advice with specific follow-ups. That's what we're doing. So we've been asked, for example, to form an advisory group for a company that's investing in India. We've advised people in Hong Kong what to do about China. We've advised people in Western Europe, particularly Poland, to get ready for what could happen if Russia takes Ukraine, because they're not going to stop there. They're going to keep on going. So it's advice across the board.
Okay, no, I like that, and that's just basically from your years of experience and the team you put together. Why people kind of lean into you guys for some of that advice. I mean, obviously, the political scene definitely changes every day. There's always something new. So you're just taking from lifelong experience is kind of where your knowledge and information to other people is coming from.
Everybody has been in the company more than 30 years, so we got a lot of experience, and not all of it good, by the way, but a lot of experience. And so when I ask these people for their thoughts and suggestions, they're not at all reluctant. They come forward with good ideas.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, sitting in one of those sessions would probably be like amazing for people like me that are, small business owners and trying to learn so much. Having all of that mind power working all at once would be incredible. So it makes a lot of sense that people would want to work with your group and be connected to that. On a more kind of common thing, and I'm sure you guys work with CEOs. I see that on your website where you really kind of work with some CEOs and higher management within companies. And you obviously were a CEO yourself. What are some of the simple things that you see that are mistakes in higher management, and what are some real simple fixes that you guys have kind of mastered or give advice about?
Well, the biggest thing negative thing that affects corporations is fear. A lot of people are reluctant to advance their own ideas or suggestions because of fear what will happen to them, and so they don't. And so what happens is really good ideas fall by the wayside and don't get implemented. So that's one of the big things that's a negative. On the positive side, people that advance ideas, if the person they're talking to is not a complete Neanderthal, takes the ideas, shapes them, and the company's better because of it. That also gives people who came up with the idea courage to do it again. And that's really the way America has grown up over the years. I anticipate that's going to continue for some time to come.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think there's always something new coming through the pipeline, always something new. So I think that's the biggest piece, is just making sure that you kind of go for it. I have been an entrepreneur for 13 years of my life at this point, and I don't know how many failures I have had, but I've always tried to launch stuff. I've never really let a good idea sit around and just kind of be part of a notebook or something. I've always enforced kind of the idea to create those things and see how the general public responds to them. And if people respond to them, that's a great opportunity for you to advance something cool and unique. If it completely fails, then it's okay. And I think that's another really kind of thing is, it's okay to accept failure, learn from it, figure out how you can manipulate and change what you did and potentially reinvent yourself.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've done that with Savoir Faire. I mean, we started off as a completely different brand name. We started off doing other kind of content, and we did a huge pivot. And when we did that, it just launched the magazine into a whole different direction, not only just with subscribers and having a base, but really just the people that we get to connect with and meet with and learn from. It's so a whole different level. And I highly appreciate that. So yeah, I think that's great advice, saying that if you have great ideas, just go with them and not really hold back. I noticed another part of the website when I was looking things over, and I was curious about this too. Obviously, you guys are doing a lot of consultations and consulting. Are you also talking to business owners about like revenue growth, or are you just putting them in a position where they can develop a new structure to get the revenue growth?
Well, we talk to them about revenue growth. We also talk to them about downsizing and getting rid of the dogs.
Okay.
So on both sides of the equation, we're there. We set goals in terms of revenue growth. For example, where do you want to be in 3 months, 6 months, a year? And we try to hit those goals as closely as we possibly can. With respect to the dogs, the company's parts that aren't so good, we work very hard to try to market those to somebody who can make something of them.
Okay, that makes sense. So there's other companies that you're kind of working with, or is this in-house thing with you guys where you guys do you do the marketing, the PR, and the escalation for different departments?
Dozens of other companies.
Okay,
all
awesome.
over the place.
Yeah, it's always good to have a great network of people that can kind of do all those things. That's really cool. Well, Robert, you've done a lot in business, and I'm glad we were able to tap a little bit into the Dilenschneider Group and learn a little bit about what you guys do there. But I'm real excited about the reason why we really connected today was about this new book that you wrote. It's called Character: Life Lessons in Courage and Integrity and Leadership. I was able to kind of read a little bit of this before we were connected. It's an Audible version, hard copy version over on Amazon. And so this is really cool because I love kind of people. I love people in this position. I always have this analogy of something kind of interesting, and I'll give it to you because maybe it's something you'll share with other people. But I always assume that like really strong business owners and people that have a lot of knowledge, they learn a lot of those things by going on a journey by themselves. And I always kind of build this kind of picture for people and say, okay, there's a whole bunch of people all at the bottom of this mountain. And you're all starting to climb to go up the mountain. And eventually people get tired or they can't make it and they start kind of slowly stopping. And there's people like you and maybe myself too that continue to climb. And when you get to the very top of this, you might be the only one there. And you learn a ton of information about everything that you just went through, all like life experience and maybe business experience and relationship experience in this regard. And when you come back down, you're going to start kind of connecting with those people that stopped at specific levels, and you're educating them or motivating them. And then eventually you get down to the masses of people at the bottom of this mountain, and you can really kind of share a lot, which in my belief, that's this book, that's putting out knowledge, that's really kind of letting people understand the storyline of your life and what you did. And so I really appreciate authors in that regard and business people that release books because you're full of knowledge and you were able to kind of collect some of that stuff in here. So talk to me a little bit about this book. Why did you write Character, and what's kind of the storyline in this book that you really want people to connect with?
Yeah, I wanted to motivate people who want to be successful. I wanted to show them examples of individuals. There are 31 people in the book who have been successful, how they got there, all different, what they did, all different. And that's why I wrote the book. I have written 23 books.
Wow.
2 of them have been bestsellers. I'm on my next book right now, which is on respect. I think people need to respect one another more than they do. Let's see where that one goes.
Understandable. That's a huge topic as well. So this Character book is a lot of different entrepreneurs that have given their story to this.
It is. If you take people like Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, who's forgotten by most, I know, was at that time was the French premier. He tried to bring Europe together and form the European Union. That was when countries were operating on their own. He never quite got there. He and Helmut Schmidt of Germany tried to make that happen. It didn't happen, but now it has happened. And Giscard d'Estaing took really enormous risks in trying to make that happen. Lou Gehrig, the great first baseman for the New York Yankees, played in over 2,100 games. Babe Ruth was there at the time and got all the publicity, but Gehrig did a pretty good job and oftentimes surpassed Ruth in his conduct and the way he played. Lou Gehrig never asked for anything. One of the most poignant moments of my time was when Gehrig retired and I'm sure many people listening or reading this have seen this. And he stood there and he said, "This is one of the most important days of my life." And he retired. He eventually succumbed to ALS and went away, but Lou Gehrig was a terrific person. There are a lot of people, like Colin Powell in the book. There are a lot of people like that. There's a person who invented insulin, and he never sought any exposure for his invention. Yet insulin has made lives for really millions of people, tens of people possible. He never sought any attention for it. So the book is full of examples like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I was looking at the Amazon listing, and there's all kinds of names listed. So, are these? How did you come with these stories? Did you personally connect with each person that's in the book, or were these inspirational stories to you that you kind of followed and paid attention to? How did you get all these stories together?
Well, I knew most of these people. I've known them over the years.
Okay.
I mean, for example, I met Colin Powell. I used to live in a place called Tudor City in New York City, and Powell used to pass by on the way to the UN. And at one point, I said to him, "General Powell, could we talk for a few minutes?" And Powell looked at me like I was crazy, but he eventually said, "Sure, let's do it." So we went to a park and sat down and talked for 3 hours. And I had a lot of insights from
That's
Powell.
cool.
But I've met most of the people that are in the book.
Okay. That's really cool. I love that. And I'm sure the list goes on and on. There's all kinds of names on this list of people that have stories in here. So putting this together, I always think about this part. It's not an easy project. You've written a lot of books, so you have a lot of knowledge about this part. But like when you come up with the idea and then you just sit down and you start thinking about how you're gonna structure this, how you're gonna write this. Talk to me a little bit about your writing process and how it goes from an idea to a book for you.
In my very early days, I met Ernest Hemingway. Hemingway at that time was at the peak of his career. He'd just written a book called The Sun Also Rises, and he was on cloud nine. I met him at a bar, literally, in South Florida, and we sat together for about 3 minutes, because Hemingway did not have a lot of time for me as a young man. And Hemingway said, "When you get up in the morning, start writing. Write until noon and then stop. But do it consistently every day. So write 3 or 4 hours a day consistently." That's literally what I try to do. And it works. I mean, sometimes when I write, I say to myself, "This isn't very good." But then as I look back at it, say a week later, I say, "You did something that was useful." And it's from those contact with Hemingway that made that happen.
That's really cool. I love that idea. And I like accountability for sure. Do you find like you have to prioritize writing as far as in book form over other business stuff? How do you manage that into your calendar, your schedule each week?
That's a difficult question. Some publishers, all publishers want a book that sells because that's how they make money.
Mm-hmm.
Some publishers want a lot of vignettes of individuals in the book. Other publishers don't want any vignettes. They want rules and that people should live by. So you need to identify the publisher and go for it on one of those occasions.
Okay. So I've been in the process of writing a book myself, so I'm asking for personal knowledge here. One of the benefits of meeting cool people like you is being able to ask questions and let everyone else hear the answers. So, I mean, I'm writing a book, but I'm struggling with just finding time because I'm doing so many other things. There's always life with family and things like that, but then you have running a business and you have to prioritize, making money, and the book's not. It may be something that is a great business card later, maybe something that's like a revenue stream eventually, but it's just not on the top of my list, and I want to prioritize it. So I'm very curious about how you are getting that opportunity to sit and actually write and put your thoughts into words. I like the idea of accountability. Spending 3 to 4 hours just writing is great, but in my young man life, I feel like there's just not 3 or 4 hours for me to sit in front of a computer and write. So how are you forcing yourself into that mode? Like, I'm really curious about that.
It's very tough. When my wife walks in and wants something, I always say, "Call me after noon." When my son wants to play, I say, "No way, we'll do it this evening." So I just try to be very disciplined about it and turn people away. It works out. Sometimes they don't like it, but it works out over time.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I obviously only have met you because of character, but I wouldn't mind you if you plugged a couple more books that you've written that I'm curious about too. So what are some of the other books that kind of have been successful? What were the 2 bestsellers that you did?
Well, I've written books on a lot of books on communications. That's really the centerpiece of what I've written. But the books I've written really talk about big global and international affairs, and I feel that there's a lot of time for that. I mean, right now, if I had a moment, I'd write a book about what's going to take place in Ukraine, because I think it's going to have an impact on the entire world. There's a book that needs to be done on India, because the Indian country is really starting to perk up. If you could do it without getting killed, there's a great book to write on China and what's taking place there. Here in the United States, Donald Trump has just completed his first 100 days. There's a terrific book on Trump. So it's really what's timely. That's the key.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think that those things are timely topics too, or do you think they're just kind of current events that people would pay attention to?
I think people pay attention as long as it's well written. They'll read a sentence, snap their fingers and say, I got it. I should read the whole thing. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but most times it does.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, I'm a fan, Robert, for sure. I saw a little bit of character. I definitely want to get a copy of this book. It'd be really cool to have your signature on it, by the way. So I think it's just a very unique kind of story that you've kind of led through life, starting your group and now having just being an author with so many titles under your name, which is just super cool. Definitely someone that I admire. I always look at the backstories of a lot of people and try to figure out, I mean, do I admire them because they were a famous actor or singer or something like that? But I really just look at work ethic for a lot of people. And that's where I think most of us should start admiring people a little bit more, is based on work ethic. And so from my perspective, I have a lot of respect for you and the years that you've committed to your business. And I'm sure plenty of sacrifice to be able to write and start this company. So that's really cool to me. And I just want to thank you so much for finding a little bit of time to, chat with me today. Maybe if I'm ever in the city, you and I can sit in the park for 3 hours and talk about life. I feel like that would be the same thing you got with Colin Powell when you spoke with him, just to have that kind of knowledge and conversation coming to me. I think that only kind of enhances life to learn from people that have done it and done it well.
I would really look forward to that. And when I'm in Western New York, I'll be sure to call you in advance.
Yeah, it was great because we were talking about that a little bit. Like your mother kind of grew up literally the town next to me, which is so cool that we have that small little circle. It's very interesting to see how paths cross as you kind of live through life and go through life, and you meet people that you wouldn't even think you'd have something in common with in any regard, and somehow you actually do. And I love the way that life works like that. It's very unique and very cool to kind of connect with people on not only just personal stuff, but really just kind of the aspects of admiring someone that does great in business too.
We're both lucky, Ben.
Yeah, very
cool. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, Robert. Have a great day.
And you.
Thank you for listening to the show. Please take a minute to head over to www.savfair.com and subscribe to our publication.